These stories are taken from the book More Branch Line Engines. Thomas and the Rumors. Thomas the Tank Engine loves his branch line. One day, when he stopped at Farquhar, some children looked sad. They closed our playground and our favorite sandpit, said a girl. Teacher said the sand is soily and too dirty to play in, and the playground is getting worn down. They're currently looking for a new playground spot. Please help us, Thomas, they pleaded. I'll see what I can do, replied Thomas kindly. Thomas hoped things weren't quite as bad as the children had made them out to be. But as he passed their playground, a large sign read, Playground closed until further notice. The children were right, thought Thomas sadly. He puffed into the yards and was just about to tell the other engines about the playground when Percy rushed in. You look glum, little Percy, what's up? Asked Gordon. The Fat Controller is using Harold to show a visitor around the island, instead of using any of us engines. Despicable, said Gordon. Disgusting, said Henry. Engines are meant to take visitors around our island, not that whirly-bird thing, James explained. Gordon was the first to see Harold. Harold thinks he can go faster than me. I'll show him next time. Next, it was Henry's turn. Perhaps the Fat Controller has chosen Harold because he thinks he's more important than me. Well, he's not. Harold can't fly through tunnels. Percy stopped by a signal along the branch line near a field where sheep were grazing. Harold hovered for a while, then buzzed away. I know, said Percy. Probably the visitor is counting sheep. And he puffed along the line, feeling much better about things. That evening, the engines talked about the situation. Perhaps the visitor thinks Harold is better than us, said Gordon. Well, he doesn't need tunnels, added Henry. Don't worry, the visitor is just counting sheep, said Percy. Counting sheep? Pah, snorted Gordon. He's counting how many times that Harold outsmart us. He'll see how useful I am tomorrow. Thomas wanted to mention the children's playground, but solving the mystery of Harold and the visitor came first. The next day, Gordon was traveling to collect his train. We'll show that whirly bird just how fast you can go, Gordon, said his driver. Because they were watching Harold, they missed his signal and went onto the wrong line. Gordon was traveling to trouble. Ahead was a tunnel under repair. His driver reduced steam and braked hard, but it was too late as Gordon crashed into the tunnel. Later, Thomas pulled Gordon clear with the breakdown train. The Fat Controller spoke severely to Gordon's driver about the accident. Why is Harold taking the visitor around the island? Asked Thomas. The Fat Controller explained. Well, this gentleman here is making a new playground for the children. It was easy to find a suitable site for up in the air. Oh, that's a relief, said Thomas. I thought Gordon's being replaced. What made you think that? Said the Fat Controller. Thomas decided to pluck up courage. Because the engines think the visitor is here to see if we can be replaced by Harold, he replied. The Fat Controller laughed. Ho ho. Well, the engines are wrong and you shouldn't be listening to rumors, Thomas. I'm just being really useful by helping the children, the Fat Controller and the visitor out, Harold replied. And what's more, said the visitor, the big blue engine managed to find some clean sand that is perfect for the new playground. Sand we found by accident and rumor, you might say. Thomas couldn't help but laugh. The Fat Controller still uses Harold to fly above the island. But all the engines know that Harold isn't spying on them. He is just being really useful. Bar. In summer, the island of Sodor gleams in the sun and every station is filled with flowers. Percy had been working at the harbour all day and was tired of the smell of fish. Phew! Come on, Percy, said his driver. Time to go home. Please, can I have a wash down first, driver? Sorry, Percy, there isn't time. The Fat Controller's waiting for us at the sheds. There is to be a festival of flowers, announced the Fat Controller. This sign saying Best Dressed Station will be awarded to the winner. The engines were excited. My favourite station is Farquhar, said Thomas. Mine is Maythwaite, said Toby. Percy, what's yours? Percy was too tired to think properly. The harbour, he muttered. Ha, sniffed Thomas. We can tell. Toby laughed. The docks are full of fish, not flowers. All right then, Tory Rag. I like to rest there most of my time, especially when I'm there and not here listening to you saying I'm silly. Good night. Next morning, Percy was proud to be sparkling again. His trainer trucks were being loaded with vegetables and flowers. These are for Mayfway, said his driver. They'll be displayed on the platform. On the way, Percy saw Howell. Why is Howell buzzing about? He thought. I haven't time for a race today. What's that? Said his driver. Why, bless me, it's a ram. Now we'll be late. I should have known that Howell was trying to tell us something. I just got the ticket to get him off the track, cried the fireman. Food. He found some cabbage leaves. The ram chomped happily away as the fireman lured him off the track. Then Percy continued on with his journey. His driver told the station master what had happened when they arrived. I heard about this ram, he is always hungry. A little while later, the station was decked with flowers. It was the most beautiful station Percy has ever seen. Mayfway would definitely win first prize, decided Percy. He left his coaches and went to a siding where no one could see him. Time for a snooze, he yawned. But it wasn't. We'd better see what all that noise is about, said his driver. Percy was shocked to see that flowers, fruits and vegetables were scattered everywhere. It's that ram. He's made a meal at the station too. Then there was trouble. We can't get into the waiting room, the passengers cried. Why not? Asked the station master. The ram won't let us. Everyone looked at the ram and the ram looked at them. Look, he's not alone, exclaimed Percy's driver. Let us out, please, begged the boys. We're very sorry. Well, look at that, said the station master. The boys are the cobwebs, not the ram. He was just making sure they did no more damage. We thought it would be fun, but it wasn't. We'll put everything back. A few days later, the Fat Controller invited some of the engines to Mayfway, winner of the Best Dressed Station Award. I'm sorry, Toby, whispered Percy. You make the right choice. Then the Fat Controller made an announcement. There is one more prize for our good friend the ram. Here it is, a pumpkin. And I'll eat my hat if you don't like it. Then Harold landed. The wind from his blades blew the Fat Controller's hat off. And then the ram ate his hat. Well, seems I won't be able to eat my hat even I had to, said the Fat Controller. Everyone laughed, and the only sound from the ram was a contented hiccup. Toby and the Flood. It had been raining hard for weeks. Toby was feeling miserable. Everywhere was wet, wet, wet. His tramway runs to a village. The water and the river had risen with the rain. Only the great wall, known as a dam, was stopping the water from overflowing. Percy arrived just as Toby was about to inspect the dam for any damage. Driver tells me it may be dangerous up there. Please be careful, Toby, said Percy. I'll try, replied Toby bravely. Percy watched anxiously as Toby trundled away. His journey took him over a wooden bridge at the end of the village. The river surged dangerously beneath it. Howard the helicopter was inspecting the dam as Toby arrived. Toby looked at the dam. It looks all right to me, said his driver. But he spoken too soon. Water managed to pierce through the holes of the bricks. The dam is breaking up! We must warn everyone, cried Toby, and he shunted back as fast as his wheels would let him. Percy was waiting anxiously for Toby by the bridge. The river had risen so high that the bridge was in danger of collapsing. The dam's breaking up! We must find high ground, shouted Toby as he arrived. Your only chance is across the bridge, called Percy. It doesn't look safe to me, wailed Toby. It's our only chance, said his driver. If the dam breaks, we'll be done for. Toby was halfway across the bridge when disaster struck. The dam breaks apart. Help! Cried Toby as the bridge breaks apart and he floats away. We'll follow him on our line. It meets the river further down. As Toby floated helplessly on the floodwaters, they passed a sign that made them shudder. Beware the waterfall. If we go over that waterfall, we're doomed, said his driver. Then they see Harold, who swooped low and shouted urgently to them. We're going to drop the rope to you, Toby. Attach to yourself, quickly now. And they did, to one of Toby's buffers. Just then Percy arrived, and Harold flew over to him. Catch the rope and pull Toby to safety, Harold said. Percy, with all his might, pulled Toby and the bridge to safety. Toby was safe at last. When the floods were over and the dam mended, the villagers held a big party for Toby, hosted by the Fat Controller. You were very brave, Toby. Thanks to Harold, sir, Toby replied. I could never have been so brave, Toby. Oh, I'm sure you would be, but you never know until you try. Percy rather hoped he would never have to. Make someone happy. It was holiday time on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard and happily, except for James, who had been sent to help on Thomas's branch line. Why should a splendid engine like me take messy coal trucks instead of coaches? Percy or Toby should do it. They're not important as I am. Thomas was cross. James, why don't you think about something or someone else for a change? You'll be surprised at how much better you feel if you do. Pah, snorted James. I'm too important. Being important is the only thing for me to think about. A biplane zoomed overhead over Dryall. That plane's making a great deal of noise about something, said Percy to Toby. His name is Tiger Moth, replied Toby, and is flying around with a banner telling everyone about the fair that's arriving today. What are you two doing here? Asked Thomas. The Fat Controller wanted us to collect a special load from the harbour, said Toby. And I think it's got something to do with the fair, added Percy, as they puffed away. Meanwhile, Jane was collecting quarry trucks from the yards at Farquhar. Dustier and dustier, he grumbled. Then he saw a woman. That must be Mrs. Kindly, he thought. She looks miserable. James's driver went over to her. What's the matter? My sister has rung to tell me that she can't come to stay with me. I was so looking forward to her visit. The Fat Controller soon heard the news. We must cheer her up. Send Harold the helicopter to pick her up immediately. A few minutes later, there was a prize for Mrs. Kindly. All present and correct, called Harold. I'm here on a flying visit. Hurry aboard, Mrs. Kindly, and fly the skies with me. Compliments of the Fat Controller. Oh, how lovely! Harold's making my red paint dustier than ever, muttered James, but he was happy for Mrs. Kindly. Soon she was flying high in Harold. I had never seen the island like this before. It's wonderful, she said. Meanwhile, Percy and Toby arrived at the harbour. Daisy was there, who brought in. Would you believe it? Something inside that crate is something really special, and it's really important. The workman unloaded the crate. Wooden horses, Percy exclaimed, for the carousel ride. It's going to be a very exciting fair. It is indeed, whistled James. The Fat Controller has ordered me to stop pulling trucks and go to the station instead. Something to do with Mrs. Kindly. Goodbye. Well, what you think of that? Gasped Daisy. I had never seen James looking so happy today. Mrs. Kindly was waiting for James with the Fat Controller at Elsbridge. Now this is your special treat. James will take you on a mystery ride and I shall meet you at your destination. James took Mrs. Kindly along her favourite coastal route to Tidmouth Bay. When he arrived there, it was dark. A big surprise awaited Mrs. Kindly. Oh, she cried, you brought me to the fairground. How lovely! Best of all, the Fat Controller invited her to make the announcement. I declare this fairground open. The sign stores lit up and Mrs. Kindly had the first ride on the carousel, and the musics play as they go. You're quite right, Thomas, James whispered. Making someone happy does cheer you up. Then together they watched the fun of the fair.